Alright, welcome back to the knowledge dump series where I'm like sharing a lot of info that I have from different experiences that I've had. And so this video I want to talk about the food industry, I guess. I was a cook, or overnight baker I should say, at a job. And so the knowledge I have on this isn't going to be super extensive, but I can give you some pointers towards like waiters and waitresses if you are doing that as your job. So let's start off in the kitchen. When it comes down to the kitchen, most of these jobs, they have training on what you're supposed to be doing, but one thing that helped me out in my job is making sure that everything is labeled. So what I did is I would head over to Target, Walmart, any office supply store, and they usually have stickers that are blank. They usually sell them by the sheet, and then of course you grab a Sharpie, label everything, slap those stickers onto places so that you can easily know where things are when you're navigating throughout your kitchen. If people have a problem with that, let them know that that helps you get the job done quicker. And if they don't want you doing that, ask them how can you figure out a better way to label your areas so that you can know when and where to go to when you are doing certain things within the job. I don't think they should have a hard time, but I know it can look a little tacky if everything's not done correctly. So that's just up to you and your manager. When you have everything labeled correctly, you want to go about time management very well. So when it comes down to, for me, it was baking. So it was a matter of having a certain list of things baked before the end of the night. And so the first couple shifts I was trained, and I just followed somebody, and they would kind of leave out in the middle of the shift, so I had to figure out some of the stuff on my own. And so what I would eventually do is write down what each thing that needs to be baked, the prep time and the bake time. So when I was evaluating, all right, what should I do first and how should things go, I could know how much it takes to prep, how much it takes to bake, and I would try to, I don't know, this is up to you, where you're just going to have to evaluate what's the best way of going about it to get everything done before the end of your shift. If it means prepping bread while the cookies are baking, and then when the cookies are done, you throw your bread in so you can start prepping this while this is baking, like you're going to have to start getting that kind of schedule down and figure out what it is exactly that works for you to get everything done. And then other than that, I would say just be careful about how you go about it, because it can happen where you start making mistakes on things getting mixed up. So I would say in between each prep time and bake time, try to make some time to also do your cleaning as well too. Try not to go too fast with getting everything done as quick as possible without the cleaning in between, because when you get to the end, you're going to have a way bigger mess than if you were to just clean in between. And sometimes when I'm getting things ready for one item, if I clean it before I get the next item ready, I then will reuse it for that item. So then at the end of the night, I've actually only used maybe 2 or 3 knives versus having to use 7 or 8, maybe 10 knives, because I try to get a new knife for every single thing that I'm doing. Other than that, I would also say that make sure your kitchen has a first aid kit. That was kind of the reason why I quit my job, is because I burned my arm and I literally could not find a first aid kit in my kitchen. So I left in the middle of my shift. I was in pain. I was injured at this point. I said screw everything. I took everything out. I didn't care if it was done baking or whatever, and I left. If they didn't want me to leave, they should have provided the healthcare kits that I needed in order to aid to my burns. Like, they had this very thin bread oven, and one of the loaves kind of got towards the back, so I'm like trying to get the wooden paddle thing to get it, and as you see my arm, that's what got burned. And the thing is too, is that when you adjusted it, I touched the other part, so now both my arms are burned, and so I pulled it out as quick as possible, and I'm injured. And if they had the health kit, it would have prevented me from leaving, but I had to leave. So make sure that's in your kitchen. Make sure you know where it is. And back to that first thing about having it labeled, make sure everything is labeled. Make sure you have everything you need. Have gauzes, have ice packs, have whatever it is that you need to aid yourself in the kitchen. I like the anti-burn creams as well too, because if you burn yourself, slap some cream on, put a Band-Aid over it or gauze, and you're good for the rest of the shift. You can keep going. The next thing is to make sure that you have your stations, I guess, very organized. So when it comes down to having organization, it's nice to have color-coded things. So for me, I like to have these little rubber ends on the end of some of my utensils, where like I knew blue was always a spoon, or I knew red was a fork, I knew yellow was a knife, or whatever colors it is that you want to do. That way it was just kind of easy for me to know, all right, I need to grab this, and I would just go with the colors versus like grabbing a spoon, grabbing a fork, grabbing a fork, whatever it is, trying to find the right thing. Oh my god, finally a knife. If you had the colors, you would just know what color to look for. So try to do that. And then other than that, yeah, just make sure you keep your kitchen clean. That's all I can really suggest on the kitchen side of things. Now when it comes down to waiters and waitresses, I know some people are really, really good with memory. Try not to do that. Because the thing is, if you mess up somebody's order because you tried to remember and you didn't write it down, it's going to come back and it's going to haunt you. You want to know how it's going to haunt you? They might not give you as much of a tip. Now, the way to kind of always make sure that you get a tip, or at least not make sure that they know that you're trying to work to achieve that. Make sure whenever, of course, they come in, you greet them. Make sure that they feel like they are like taken care of, in the sense that you give them just a little small attention. Oh, I know you guys just came in. Right now I'm doing this. Just give me one moment, I'll be right with you. Or whenever they're sitting at their table, you know, if they're waiting, even if they have another waiter that's supposed to be coming to their section to help them, and you see that haven't been helped for a second, just be like, hey, I see you guys been sitting here for a moment. I'm gonna grab your waiter, I'm gonna tell them to come over. Just little small things like that will make for a better impression on that customer. Other than that, yeah, just be accommodating. Make sure you ask questions that helps them understand the experience that they're supposed to be getting with that restaurant, or whatever place that you're serving whatever food. Make sure to also have an understanding of what kind of experience you're supposed to be going for. So if it is supposed to be more of a high-end, high-scale place, or high-end, high-scale place, you're supposed to give them really top-notch service. If it's medium tier, you still want to give the best service, but you can slack on a couple things. And if it's like a low-end place, you still want to give the best, because people probably came there to spend some money, so they still want to feel good about it. And people do tip if you make them feel good enough. And, you know, having those maybe, and this is where HR might come in and say, don't do this, but I don't know. Sometimes when people say, you know, I'll be right with you, sweetheart, or give me one moment, honey, or like, I don't know. And that's just for waitresses. If you're a waiter, just ma'am, sir, things like that. When you use those kind of labels, it just shows respect. And other than that, towards the end, I would say the best way to get a tip, ask them how their experience was. If they say that they didn't have the best experience, ask them how they can do better, or how you can do better, or what could be done better. And then just say, well, I appreciate your feedback. Here's a receipt. At the bottom, there's a section here for you to give your feedback. If they don't have it on the receipt, literally just take a pen, write feedback, and have them fill it out. And then say, based off the service today, do you guys, I wouldn't say ask them if you deserve to get a tip, but just say like, any gratitude that you give would be appreciated, or if you did like your experience today, gratitude is appreciated. If you didn't like the service, can you please still, you know, provide gratitude in the feedback so that we can become better next time. Whatever wordplay that you need to figure out, you can do it. It's just a matter of actually acknowledging it at the end of the meal, food thing, whatever, because sometimes people are just oblivious. Like, you, once again, are in this environment all the time, and I said this in my retail video, where people aren't always going to be in the same mindset as you. So they subconsciously may not be aware that there is a gratitude line or a tip line. So you need to remind them of that. And for you, you're probably like, well, they should know that. And this is probably why you're not getting tips, because you're assuming. Assuming gets you nothing. You need to interact with them and let them know, hey, this is the experience that I was going for. This is why, and I need gratitude, or I would appreciate gratitude if the experience that you had was accomplished, or whatever it is that you were trying to go for. So acknowledge it to them. Hey, please make sure to leave a tip if you like today's service. If you don't say that, you can't cry if you didn't get a tip. But even if you did say and you didn't get a tip, take it for what it is. Take it for what it is. Some people don't tip. Some people just don't. That's not something that's necessary. You have prices on the menu for a reason. When someone buys your service, they don't have to tip you. There's a reason why you went into this field. If you were looking for the tips, you have to understand it's not going to come every single time. So just be aware of that. Make the best out of it. And other than that, I don't really have anything much more about the food industry, because once again, I didn't work in it for too long, but that's just kind of my observation. So, peace.